Let me ask you a quick question. Do you know when is the right time to buy? Like, especially right now, 2022, you have this market going down, economic data is not going well. Some things are doing right, some things I'm doing wrong. Do you know when it's the right time to pull the trigger? If you don't, watch this video. I have this crazy trick, a tool that I've developed that you can download for free today that will help you make those decisions. But first, a word on confidence. A few years ago, I was on my terrace having a glass of wine with my friends. And one of my friends asked me, he's like, Mike, how can you be so confident in doing anything you do in life? And then I started thinking, and I was like, man, you're right. Like anything I do, even life-changing decision, I make them within 2 minutes. And I do that because I'm confident I'm going to make the right choice. And I'm confident I can do anything in the world. Thing is, I know it's not true. I know that I will fail miserably at many things. So I'm not trying to brag here or be arrogant, but whenever I start a project, I do it with confidence, I do it with conviction, and I know I'm able to do it. And then I started to wonder why I feel this power inside of me and just like being able to do those things. Try to explain that to my friend. And then I realized that one thing that helps me a lot is I don't doubt my decision. I never have any doubts. Why? Because I follow straightforward decision-making processes. What that means is I have like some methodologies that helps me to put anything, like when I look at a problem, I put anything either on the right column, on the wrong column, I added them up, and then I make my decision within minutes. So instead of wondering for hours, that turns into days, that turns into weeks, that turns into never because you're stuck by paralysis by analysis, I use those straightforward decision-making methodologies to help me go through life. I've developed one stock checklist that will do exactly that when you're looking at any companies that you wonder if you should buy now or if you should wait or just get rid of it. So instead of like going through multiple YouTubes and podcasts and analysis and spending hours and weeks and months and probably end up never investing, you can use this checklist that you'll be able to download at the end of this video to help you make decision faster. The way I've built it is it's pretty much very straightforward, very simple. And the one thing that's super important is I put only like yes or no or just data-driven information on that checklist. Why? When you're listening to an interview in a podcast, you'll have the interviewer asking open questions, hoping that the guest will go on and develop and have a nice story, right? But when you're about to make a decision, you don't want to hear about a story. You want to hear about the fact and what works for you and what not. So having this yes or no format will help you to take decision faster. So obviously the list will only work if you have done research before that. If you have used some stock screener, if you have done like research on the business model and you know the company from in and out, because if you don't, you will not be able to answer the checklist. Checklist stands on one page only. You can see it right here. So the first thing we're going to look at is the allocation role. When you pull out a filter in a good economy, you'll have like some sectors that will thrive, right? A few years ago, tech stocks were going through the roof. Right now in 2022, if you're pulled the sectors and you're looking for growth, you're going to find all the oil and gas companies. Should you buy 10 of them? Definitely not. So this checklist will help you identify which stocks from which sector doing which role in your portfolio. So looking for what you need instead of just picking like the best bargain on the market and then putting your portfolio at risk because the sector allocation is off or you're digressing from the goal that you want. If you're looking for income, don't go for low yield, high growth stocks that looks like a gamble. Go for something that is safe, a blue chip, a long time dividend grower with some good yield. Speaking of yield, I'm a dividend growth investor. I focus on that. So there's obviously a huge section about the dividend for my checklist. First thing, you don't want to have dividend cutters. Dividend cutters, especially that we're about to enter in a recession or we're in a recession, that's a whole debate. But when times are risky, when times are shaky, you don't want to have companies that are already having difficulties or that has proven to you that in the past recession, they were not able to hold their end of the bargain and they had to cut their distribution. So identify dividend cutters, identify dividend growers for how many years was the dividend growth. It's all things that are super important to start building your portfolio. At the end, I put the Chowder Score. What's the Chowder Score? It's quite easy. It's the dividend yield plus the average of the past 5 years of dividend growth. So company that shows a 3% yield and an average of 5% dividend growth over the past 5 years, you'll have 3 plus 5 equals 8. You have a Chowder Score of 8. Ideally, I like to have most of my stocks between 9 and 12. That will show me a great balance between the yield and the dividend growth. So for a more generous company, you can expect a lower dividend growth, but as long as it meets at least 8, 9, that will be the minimum. So then you can move forward and you know that the company will give you a good balance between the yield and the growth. Once you have settled a score with a dividend, the second part is that dividend is safe. So we already know if it's a dividend cutters before that, but now looking at the payout ratios, looking at how the debt is going, if the company is issuing more shares or more units to pay their stuff, this will tell you a lot. So I rather look at the trend for the payout ratios because the payout ratios is a little bit more complicated than just like two numbers being divided. There's a lot of context that you have to understand. So looking at the trend will tell you if the company increases dividend but increases its payout ratio year after year, you know what, at one point it will not work. So then you can just focus on companies with stable payout ratios. That will be like the best case scenario. If the payout ratio is too high, do a little bit more digging and try to explain why the calculation is not working, especially if it's a long time dividend grower. I've also added the Refinitive credit score. The reason why I added there is for all my Dividend Stocks Rock members, they have access to a complete stock screener with more than 40 financial metrics, including some Refinitive information, such as the value score, credit score, and ESG score. So you can add that to your checklist. You can personalize it. At least have one credit score that you can trust. It could be from the credit agencies, but not all companies will be rated the same way. So it will give you an idea if the company's balance sheet is robust or not. The final step, as you can see, quite straightforward. We're going into the Dividend Triangle. The Dividend Triangle is looking at the trend for revenues because you want a company selling more products, offering more services, being a leader in the market. You want a company that is making profit, so earnings per share growth over the past 5 years. You want to make sure that margins are healthy, can fight inflation, can go through a recession and still make profit. And obviously, if you find a company that is thriving and making money, well, they should share the wealth with shareholders. So dividend growth rate over the past 5 years. Again, it's even better if you can look at the graph. This is what we have at Dividend Stocks Rock, but at least with the number, if you have like growing sales, growing earnings, and then growing dividend, your checklist is pretty much complete. And now you'll be ready. You'll feel confident to buy the stock, because even if the stock price goes lower in the next coming months, you'll know that you have a high quality company in your portfolio, and short-term fluctuation will not affect your judgment. And that's the most important part. With this checklist, you will gain confidence, you will feel comfortable with your buying decision, and then you can weather the storm without having any doubts. So I have two surprises for you. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. The first thing is you can download the Rockstar list. That will be a great start because you'll have companies with a bunch of metrics already pre-filtered for you, both Canadian and US stocks, strong dividend growers with all those metrics from the checklist that are already checked out. So you can start working on, and you can also download the DSR stock checklist so you can print it, start working on it, and make better decisions. So the link in the description below. Right there, you subscribe to my newsletter. It's completely free. You'll be able to get the Rockstar list plus the checklist, and you can start working on those and invest with more conviction. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up, forward that video to your friends so they can learn a little bit more about that checklist. They can download it, look at through the Rockstar list, and also improve their portfolio in this tough times. We're all in this together. We're trying to help each other. So those resources are for free. And until next Thursday, don't forget to stay invested.